I'd say I'm a relatively healthy person. I make a lot of my food at home, I take regular exercise, I try to learn new things to keep my brain engaged, and ultimately, I grew up with the crunchiest almond mum to ever exist. Actually, and my dad. He is totally an almond dad too, if there is such a thing. So I've been trained to eat my veg, get a lot of fresh air, and not allow the TV to rot my brain, in my mother's words. However, as I've gotten older, I've become acutely aware that I am no longer invincible. And without some mobility and stretching, my body will ache a little more. Without plenty of water, the headaches will come. And without proper rest, I am honestly good for absolutely nothing. So in today's video, I want to share food I'm prepping for the month and why, focusing on a realistic and balanced view of my food choices. So without further ado, give the video a like if you liked it, consider subscribing as it really supports my channel, and grab a cup of tea, and let's get into it. Good morning and welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to be talking about everything that I'm doing to basically feel as good as possible. Things have definitely changed since I entered my 30s and I take my health a lot more seriously, my sleep, my exercise, how I'm exercising my brain as well. And I thought we could go over all of that in today's video. One thing I've been doing for my brain is learning French. One thing I've been doing for my body is finding something that I really enjoy that also happens to be a physical activity like climbing. And I've been looking at just ways to incorporate more healthy foods into my diet, because I eat a vegan, plant-based diet and I just want to ensure that I'm doing the best I can for myself. Okay, I'm gonna make breakfast and we can talk a little bit more about, I guess, my food philosophy or how I try to incorporate as many healthy things into what I eat in a week. For me, balance is always key. My food philosophy is fairly simple. Everything in moderation. The main reason I cook a lot from scratch is simply because it tends to be more affordable. It reduces my waste a little and it gives me a greater sense of what is actually in my food. I also just enjoy it. I love learning about how things are made, what's happening in the bubbles and fermentation process, as well as being able to make something vegan that I can't find in the shops. I find certain foods absolutely mystifying. Things like tempeh, kimchi, tofu, marshmallows, and croissant. This leads to curiosity and asking myself the question, I wonder if I can make this myself. This process is actually what informs a lot of what I eat, and this is how I find myself making enough kimchi to last me months. Kimchi is something I shied away from for a long time because it seemed very complicated and time-consuming. Anything that involved fermentation, timing, the possibility of exploding jars or mold really intimidated me. But when the vegan options are limited and the shops stop stocking your favorite one, it seemed like the right time to try something new. I am very grateful for creators like The Korean Vegan, who made it really easy for me to find a recipe that was straightforward and delicious. So for this month's food prep, I decided to make 2 huge jars of Napa cabbage kimchi and a slightly smaller one of daikon kimchi. These will definitely last us a long time, and the longer they sit, the better they'll get. It feels like such a wonderful coincidence that making fermented foods is incredibly fun, but also happen to be good for you. This is what people tell me anyway. I'm just a gal out here trying to be healthy and just trying to feel my best. But people keep telling me that fermented foods are really good for your gut, for your body, and to be honest, it may be a placebo, but I really do feel it. And my plate is certainly more colourful and delicious for it. One thing about fermented foods is it just brings an extra tang or spice or just depth of flavour that you wouldn't otherwise have. And this makes food so exciting. And again, it makes me want to keep exploring and keep looking at different fermentations and seeing what is possible and what we can turn all our food into. For this kimchi recipe, I was able to find everything I needed from H Mart. Things like Napa cabbage, Korean pear, red pepper flakes, and dashima. Other fundamental components of kimchi are glutinous rice flour, salt, garlic, and ginger. I also added in some sliced carrot, daikon, and garlic chives, and really took my time coating every leaf of the cabbage. Once I had prepared the kimchi, I left it out on the counter for about a week before placing it in the fridge to continue fermenting for another 2 weeks. I've really been enjoying experimenting with sourdough recently. I've been enjoying looking at different flavors and different combinations, how many ingredients I can reasonably put into a loaf of sourdough and it still turn out really well. So this week I decided to make one plain sourdough and also a black cherry and dark chocolate one. I'd never really thought about making something sweet with a sourdough, but then who doesn't love bread and sweet things together? And as I said, for me, everything in moderation is really important. I think dark chocolate is delicious. I love black cherries. And I thought this would be a really great way to have a treat because I just love toast so much. I prepared both loaves, put them in the fridge overnight, and then baked both of them in the morning. They turned out really well, and every time I make something new, I always take meticulous notes so that I can recreate it the next time. I'm still having a little trouble getting that consistent ear, but I'm still very happy with how these loaves are looking. Good morning. So this morning I made my 2 sourdough loaves. I made just a plain one. I got a good rise, but not the best ear, but I'm not particularly worried about that. And then I also finally made the dark chocolate and cherry one, which I am so excited about. I am currently making one more loaf, and I'm doing this because sourdough, I really enjoy the process, but it does take a lot of time and I have to make sure that I forget when it comes to timings. So it's good for me to do a bunch in a row, but then we can have 2 loaves out, the sweet one and the plain one, and then also one I'm going to put in the freezer when it's ready. I'm also going to make this a different flavour, so we have a plain, black cherry and dark chocolate, and then I'm going to have a rosemary one. I also have some friends coming to stay this weekend, so I just wanted to make sure that I had enough for that. Once I finish making this loaf, then I'm going to get on with the preserved lemons. They've been preserving in the fridge overnight, so some of the juices should have been come out, and I'm going to squish them into a jar and then I'm going to cover them with lemon juice, put them in the fridge for a month, and then they'll be ready. So let me finish this dough and then we'll get on to the lemons. If you haven't watched my sourdough video, once I'm mixing that sort of autolyse with the starter, I just do this crab claw thing. And I find it to be pretty effective. Once I've done that for a few minutes, then I'll just literally just fold it in on itself. Sourdough doesn't have to be difficult. You can make it as complicated or as simple as you want. Don't believe people on the internet that tell you it's really hard. You can do anything that you put your mind to, okay? I also really love this bowl. I actually just thrifted it 2 days ago, and I've thrifted a few things for a project that I'm working on, but also for the kitchen because it's spring, and there are just a few other things I wanted. So after we do the lemons, I'll show you that, because secondhand is a great way to get things because it's cheaper and it's far more sustainable. And also, just look how cool this is. Apparently we're becoming a blue house, so everything we seem to get is blue. Also, one more tip is, instead of using plastic wrap if you want to cover your bowls, I just got these bowl covers and I wet them and then put them on. And anytime they get dry, because I live in a very dry climate, I just re-wet them. And that just helps to keep it nice and damp inside so that the dough doesn't dry out while it is proofing. Okay, I'm gonna leave this for an hour before I do the first stretch and folds. And as I said, we'll go on to the lemons. I love preserved lemons. If you've eaten any North African meals or Middle Eastern meals, then they probably had preserved lemons in them. If you've made any Ottolenghi recipes, he puts a lot of preserved lemon in his food. If you've ever had a tagine, that usually has preserved lemon in. So as you can see, some of the liquid has come out, which is awesome. So I'm just gonna stuff them in here, nice and tight, and then I'm gonna squeeze probably 7 to 8 lemons worth into here to preserve it as well. So I have salt and lemon juice to preserve the lemons. I'm following a recipe by the Mediterranean Dish blog, so I'll put that link down below. You should go and support her. It's her recipe. And I love supporting other creators, so I just want to let you know that that's where this comes from. Okay, let's get stuffing. So for the preserved lemons, I wasn't sure if this was going to be the perfect jar, but it ended up being just a bit too big, so I had to put it in a smaller one so that I could really squish the lemons together. And then I just filled it to the top with lemon juice so that this is what they are going to preserve in over the next month. Of course there's salt in there, and I also completely forgot to put in the extra black peppercorns and bay leaves. So this is going to go in the fridge for a month and then we can start using it. I always make sauerkraut, and I've been making different types recently, but I hadn't made a normal, just plain cabbage one in a while, so I decided to make a green cabbage, just a very straightforward sauerkraut. I had 2 heads of cabbage which I finely sliced, and when you're doing this you want to measure how much the total weight of all the cabbage is, and then you're going to figure out what 2% is of that weight, and that's how much salt you're going to use. You massage it, and basically after a while all the liquid starts to come out, and I just used one of the leaves I took off earlier to try and completely submerge everything. I'm not too worried if it's not completely submerged at first, because it will with the bubbles rise. Okay, so I'll leave this for 3 weeks and see what happens. Next I'm going to be making some fermented tomatoes with basil and garlic, because I wanted to experiment and just see what it would taste like. These definitely were an interesting flavor, but I'll be making them again. Let's put it that way. These are little gauges on the top in case you're wondering. It allows the bubbles to come out without allowing oxygen to go in, so it doesn't mold. And when fermenting things, everything has to be submerged. So that's the food prep that I've done for the month at the moment. And in the next video, I want to show you exactly how I'm using these things to make dishes in a what I eat in a week video. I'm trying to connect all of my videos together so that there is a seamless understanding of how one fits into another, especially when it comes to my new series, Rediscovering Myself in My 30s. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, please let me know what they are in the comments below. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.